Signs that Sigma males are more intimidating than they think. Greetings, gentlemen. When most people hear the word intimidation, they often picture someone loud, aggressive, or actively trying to control a room. Yet, with Sigma males, the intimidation they exude is far more understated and significantly more unsettling. He isn't the type to shout or throw his weight around. Instead, he functions on an entirely different wavelength, one you might not notice immediately. What sets him apart is his composed detachment, his uncanny ability to see through others, and his refusal to conform to typical expectations. Everything about him challenges how people usually think and act without even realizing it, often leaving them feeling off balance or exposed without pinpointing why. This subdued but powerful presence is why a Sigma male's energy can be far more intimidating than anticipated. Now, gentlemen, let's begin. I encourage you to watch this video in its entirety and share your insights in the comments section below. His gaze feels highly precise. The Sigma male's eye contact is far from ordinary. It's not a brief, casual glance. Instead, it's so intense that it can feel like he's looking right through you. He appears to notice even the slightest facial changes or shifts in tone, doing so in almost complete silence. He isn't intentionally trying to unnerve anyone. He's simply a keen observer, constantly absorbing information about his surroundings and their people. When he looks at you, it feels less like a casual conversation and more like a detailed examination, as though he's analyzing your character in the moment. You might find it impossible to hide anything, because he seems to know you before you've even had a chance to speak at length. This unspoken level of scrutiny leaves many feeling distinctly exposed. His responses are unpredictable. When you interact with a Sigma male, one thing stands out almost immediately. You can't predict how he'll respond. He doesn't follow the usual social script where people exhibit predictable emotional reactions. He tends to remain composed in situations that would typically frustrate, stress, or excite others, almost as if nothing can rattle him. On the other hand, in instances when you'd expect him to stay unfazed, he might deliver a pointed remark that directly addresses the issue at hand. This unpredictability can be unsettling, especially for those who depend on understanding another person's triggers to maintain control. Typically, people have prominent buttons you can push for a desired outcome, but the Sigma male conceals those cues. He won't react merely to blend in or put others at ease. Instead, he responds on his terms. Whether he stays calm amid chaos or makes a shockingly candid statement, you'll likely find yourself second-guessing. His ability to operate as a wild card can be pretty intimidating in a world designed for predictability. He rejects what everyone else yearns for. A Sigma male is recognized for walking away from opportunities that most would pursue without a second thought. Prestigious positions, public accolades, or acceptance in influential circles. Society conditions us to value these external markers of success, yet he remains utterly indifferent to them. When he rejects what many tirelessly strive to achieve, it creates shockwaves among those around him. They question whether he perceives a truth they are unaware of. He compels a reassessment of those standards by declining what the rest of the world deems essential. Although he rarely does this out of arrogance, his disregard for society's achievement measures can unsettle individuals deeply, encouraging them to reconsider the true nature of success. Thank you for being such a loyal subscriber. Your ongoing support motivates us to continue delivering meaningful content. We genuinely appreciate your participation. He easily endures emotional distance. In a culture that values relationships and frequent interaction, the Sigma male's ability to maintain emotional distance can feel unsettling. He doesn't yearn for affirmation or closeness. Isolation doesn't seem lonely to him, but rather an alternative way of existing. This self-reliance can be particularly unnerving for those who gauge their worth by the strength of their connections. Since he doesn't respond to the typical emotional pulls or need to connect, others are compelled to question how secure they feel in their self-identity. Just witnessing someone who operates effortlessly without conventional emotional anchors can unleash a wave of self-doubt in others. He resembles a void. Individuals project their insecurities onto him. Because the Sigma male tends to be quiet and hides his emotions, people often find reading him difficult. His lack of clear signals makes him a blank slate onto which others project their fears and uncertainties. Without typical responses or facial cues, some may automatically assume he's looking down on them, even if he's simply lost in his thoughts. His calm demeanor can lead others to believe he thinks they aren't good enough or that he feels superior to them. More often than not, he isn't judging anyone. He's just not focused on outwardly expressing his internal world. However, people frequently interpret his reserve as silent disapproval, unconsciously exposing their insecurities. His lack of response seems judgmental. When a Sigma male doesn't respond in predictable ways, it can unsettle those who are accustomed to expected reactions, such as praise, sympathy, or enthusiasm. In his calmness, people often perceive a silent judgment being made about them. They may wonder if they've fallen short, if their story isn't captivating enough, or if their accomplishment doesn't warrant applause. In most instances, he isn't judging at all. He's simply indifferent to the need for public validation. This neutral stance serves as a mirror, reflecting insecurities that many have yet to confront. People become self-conscious, fearing they're being quietly evaluated against an impossibly high standard, when in reality, they just don't feel the need to engage in the typical social back and forth. His autonomy causes discomfort by revealing the dependencies of those around him. The Sigma male's autonomy transcends merely enjoying solitude. It demonstrates profound emotional and psychological strength. He does not rely on others for constant support or reassurance, highlighting how much other people depend on external sources of validation. Observing someone who confidently stands alone encourages others to acknowledge their vulnerabilities. Accepting how much you rely on social connections can be disconcerting, especially in contrast to his composed self-reliance. Even without speaking, his strong sense of self highlights how much others may depend on relationships they once considered non-essential. Cognitive excellence. The Sigma male typically excels at a wide range of topics. He can effortlessly discuss technology, delve into history, and pivot to philosophy. His expertise stems from a wide-ranging curiosity, not a desire to impress. Participants may feel challenged or outmatched in many discussions while quickly moving from one domain to another. This is not for show. It's just how his mind naturally organizes information. This level of mental agility and ability to tie ideas together can be compelling and intimidating, mainly because it underscores a depth of knowledge that's tricky to compete with. He effortlessly alters the power dynamic. In gatherings of confident personalities, the Sigma male frequently shifts the balance of influence, often unknowingly. He doesn't dominate conversations or flaunt authority. His presence shifts the usual hierarchy. Others might pick up on subtle changes, dialogues that redirect, more space being granted to him, or even a slight shift in who commands the spotlight. Although he may speak seldom, his composed demeanor and aura of self-assurance quietly redefine who wields genuine influence. This shift is rarely confrontational or intentional, but it nonetheless impacts the group's unspoken structure. He resides beyond the validation loop. While numerous people gauge themselves by how much approval they receive, the Sigma male isn't part of that cycle. He doesn't long for applause or confirmation. Instead, he carries his confidence from within. This detachment from the usual feedback loop can feel jarring because it questions a core social norm, seeking and giving praise. Those who depend on external acceptance may feel uneasy around someone who neither needs nor provides it. His self-contained nature reveals how reliant some people are on collective validation, nudging them to consider why they crave acknowledgement so strongly. Unorthodox insights. A Sigma male frequently presents perspectives that diverge from common thought. He's not content to echo tried and true formulas. Instead, he offers viewpoints that can initially seem unorthodox. Nevertheless, his suggestions often prove effective or uncannily precise. His counsel can contradict standard methods, encouraging people to leave safe, familiar ground. This isn't merely contrarian for its own sake. His insights often showcase holes in mainstream logic. This can be simultaneously enlightening and disquieting, as it highlights the often narrow scope of conventional wisdom. Thank you for joining us here at Aeon's Stoic Mentors, where timeless insights from Stoicism, Eastern philosophy, and other ancient teachings guide us toward modern growth. If you found this exploration of Sigma males thought-provoking, remember to subscribe for more discussions that connect ancient wisdom with contemporary challenges. Until next time, stay true to your path and seek deeper truths that elevate your life. Take care, and may you move forward with the resilience and clarity the ancients once taught.